Today we'll be crocheting this cute pouch with a heart design. It's a great size for your little trinkets and cards. This tutorial will be very detailed and I'm going to assume that you're an absolute beginner to crocheting. Thank you so much for watching today. Here are the materials I used for this project. And this is the chart that I used, so feel free to refer back to it throughout the video. The first thing to learn is how to create a slip knot. To start our slip knot, you want to pick up your yarn and twist your yarn to form a loop. I'm just going to grab that little loop with my fingers, and with your other hand, insert your fingers, and with the tail end of the yarn, you want to grab that tail end and slightly pull through. Before you pull it too tight, I'm going to grab my crochet hook. We're going to insert the hook and tighten the knot a little bit against our hook. So don't do it too tight, otherwise it's hard to move the yarn across the hook. But once we've created our slip knot, we can start to create our row of chains. So to do that, you can see there's a tail end of our yarn, and then we can see there's another end that connects to the ball of yarn. Set aside the tail end to one side, and we're going to start by creating a chain. So to make a chain, you want to wrap your yarn around your hook and pull through that slip knot that we created. And you can see that creates a sort of V shape. This V is our first chain. And we are going to repeat this until we have 25 chains all together. So I'll do another chain with you just to show you how to do it. We're going to wrap the yarn around and pull through, and there's our second chain. Again, we're going to wrap our yarn around and pull through, wrap our yarn around and pull through, and you just want to keep going with this step until we have 25 chains all together in one row. So now I have my 25 chains in one row, and what we've just done is create the foundation chain. So this doesn't count as the first row, but the next one will. And so to start the first row of our project, we first need to chain one, an additional chain. So that's for the height of the next row. And we're going to single crochet into not the chain that we just created, but the second chain from the hook. So what that looks like is we're going to insert our hook into not the first chain, but the second chain from our hook, not this one, but this one here. Insert our hook into that top part of the V. And then we're just going to wrap the yarn around the hook and pull through. We will now have 2 loops on our hook. Wrap the yarn around the hook again and pull through 2 loops. And at this stage, I'm going to grab my stitch marker and I'm going to mark that stitch that we have just created, like so. So that V that you can see that we just created, we're just going to make sure our stitch marker is nice and snug inside that first stitch. So now you can see our stitch is sitting on top of this arch. So not this arch, but the next one is where we're going to insert our hook for the next stitch. So insert your hook. You want to wrap the yarn around, pull through, wrap your hook around the yarn again, and pull through 2 loops. And there's our second stitch. And we're going to keep going along the row. So I'll show you one more time. So not the one where we have the stitch going on, but in the next one, we're going to insert our hook, wrap the yarn around, pull through, wrap your yarn around the hook again, and pull through 2 loops. And we're just going to continue this until we have reached the end of the row. So now I'm on to the last few stitches left in my row. And so we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch, wrap our yarn around, pull through, wrap our yarn again, and pull through 2 loops. And just repeating for the next one, wrapping and pulling through, insert, wrap your yarn around, pull through. And you can see that here I have reached my very last V. So this one's used up. You can see, our stitch is sitting on top of that one. So with this last stitch, we're going to do the exact same thing. Just insert your hook into that loop, wrap your yarn around, pull through, wrap your yarn around again, and pull through 2 loops. So you can see now that we have finished our row. You don't want to keep going here, there's no more. And so we just finished our first row. So once we finished our first round, we're going to flip our work over like so. We have to do this because we can only crochet from right to left. And so remember, don't pick up your tail end of the yarn. We're going to pick up the other end, and we're ready to start the second round. So to start our second round, you want to chain 1 again for the height of the next round. You can see, if you look from the side, you can't really see the V's very well, but if you tilt your work a little bit, you can see the V's showing up in a row there. And so what you want to do is not the first chain from the hook, but in the second V from the hook, you want to insert your hook into both arms of the V. And then you just want to wrap your yarn around the hook again, pull through, wrap your yarn around, and pull through 2 loops. Once you've made that first stitch, we're going to grab our second stitch marker and pop the stitch marker right in that V that we just created. So it looks sort of like this. And then we're just going to do the same thing as round 1 for round 2. And so in the next V, and then we're gonna do a very similar thing as the previous round, except this time with all the V's, instead of just picking up one of the arms, you want to always just pick up both of the arms. So I'll show you with the next stitch as well. So with your hook, you want to insert your hook into both arms of that V of the next stitch. Wrap your yarn around the hook, pull through, wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through 2 loops. And one more time, we're going to insert our hook into that V, the two arms of the V, wrap your yarn around the hook, pull through, wrap your yarn around the hook again and pull through 2 loops. So again, we're just going to continue this pattern until the very end of the row. So now I'm on to the last 3 stitches of my row, and I know this because I can see the last stitch will have my stitch marker in it, and then we have, our second one and then our third one. Let's finish off this row. Insert our hook, wrap our yarn, pull through, wrap our yarn and pull through 2 loops. Second last one of the row, insert our hook into the 2 arms of the stitch, wrap and pull through, wrap and pull through, and we have our last stitch. You can just take it out, it might make it easier for the hook to go through. So you want to pop your hook through the 2 arms of that stitch, wrap your yarn around the hook, pull through, wrap around and pull through 2 loops. And there you have the second round of your project. So we're about to start the third row or round of this project, but it's done the exact same way as the second round, and we're just gonna keep doing this until we finished our 5th row, all in the same way with no changes in color. So now I've finished my 5th row and it's looking quite nice. And we're going to start our 6th round now, and that's where we are going to start incorporating our new color, and we're gonna learn how to do color change as well. So to start off, we are going to do 11 stitches across as we normally do. So again, chain 1 to start the row, and we're going to single crochet and insert our stitch marker and keep single crocheting across. I just finished my 10th stitch, and in the 11th one, just be very careful. We're going to start off as usual, and we're just going to insert our hook into the 2 arms of that V, wrap our yarn around the hook and pull through. But before we wrap our yarn again as we normally would, we're going to grab our second color and grab the tail of the second color. And what you're going to do is you're just going to pop this right here. Hold with your thumb to make it nice and secure. And we're just going to continue to wrap our yarn around the hook and pull through the 2 loops as if we were working with our pink yarn still, or our first yarn still. And with that, we have 11 single crochets, and then we're now going to start our 3 crochets of our new color and just continue down. In order to create a project where you don't have any tails or bits hanging out, we're going to try and make it seamless. So this is where it gets a little bit more tricky. You're just going to make sure you have that tail of the new yarn and our pink yarn as well. Keep these guys at the top here, and we're just going to stitch over them. Before we do that, we can take a peek and see which stitch we want to put our hook in to do our next single crochet with our new color. And once we know which one it is, you can tuck these guys back into place. Insert our hook into that stitch that we took note of earlier. And you want to make sure all the wool is above that stitch that we're working in. Then wrap your yarn around the hook, pull through. So you should only have 2 loops on your hook now. Wrap your yarn around the hook again and pull through 2 loops. So now we have a single crochet that is a different color, and we were able to do a successful color change. From then on, we're going to do 2 more in a similar way. So again, we can do a little bit of peeking and we look at which stitch that we're interested in next. Okay, remember that one. We're going to tuck our yarn back on top and then grab your hook, insert. So we're inserting through that V and the yarn goes on top. We're going to wrap the yarn around the hook and pull through. Wrap again around the hook and pull through 2 loops. Okay. And for our third stitch of this new color, we're going to do the same thing. Looking at which stitch we're interested in. We are interested in this one here. And we're going to insert our hook into that stitch, wrap our yarn around the hook, pull through. Now we're going to do our third stitch, but remember it's our last stitch of that color, so we're going to have to do prepare for our color change in the middle. Again, we're just going to peek and look at the stitch that we're interested in putting our hook through. Okay, insert your hook into that stitch. Make sure the yarn is on top. And then wrap your yarn around the hook, pull through. And before you wrap your yarn around again, we are going to grab this part of the yarn. We're going to bring it to the front, hold it with your thumb, pull the other yarn off to the side like this. Grab the original color that you first had, and you're just going to wrap your yarn around and pull through 2 loops. So now we're back to our original color. We still have this tail going on here. If you find it too confusing, you can always drop the tail down here and weave it in at the very end, but I prefer to just keep it on the top of my row and just work through the rest as if it wasn't there. So it sort of helps to create a seamless finish. Now with the rest of this other end of the second color, just leave it off to the side. We're going to pick up from where we left off on the next row. So you can just leave that off to the side. Whereas for the tail part, keep that at the top so we can just work around that. So back to the original color, we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch and single crochet as we have been doing so far. And just continue this until you get to the very end of the row. As our tail becomes shorter and shorter, as it becomes concealed in our work, it might be a little bit harder to work around it, but if you need to try again, that's perfectly fine. it's definitely something that gets easier with practice. So I'm going to finish off my row. We just finished our last row, and we can see our 3 single crochets of our new color nicely blended in with the rest of our work. And now we're going to start our round 7. So turn your work. So this time we are going to do 10 single crochets of pink, and of course on the 10th one we are going to do our color change like I showed before. I have just completed 9 single crochets and I'm halfway through my 10th one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do another color change. Here you want to grab your new color . You can put the first color off to the side and hold it with your thumb. And with the new color, you just want to wrap your yarn around and pull through to complete that 10th single crochet in that row. Now, once that's done, we can bring our first color over the row. And we want to make 5 single crochets of this new color. So insert your hook into the stitch that you're interested in. I want to make sure that's correct. Yeah, looks good. Insert your hook into that stitch and wrap your yarn around, pull through, wrap your yarn around, pull through 2 loops. Let's continue. Insert your hook, wrap your yarn around, pull through, wrap your yarn around and pull through 2 loops, and another one, and another one. Okay, so now we have 4 single crochets of that new color. And what we're going to do now is, this is our last stitch, so we're going to insert our hook into that next stitch and wrap your yarn around your hook, pull through, and before we wrap around and pull through again, we're going to do a color switch once more. So bring this yarn to the front, hold with your thumb, and then you want to grab your original color yarn. You want to wrap your yarn around the hook again and pull through 2 loops. And you want to double check and have another look at your work that you have 5 stitches of that second color. And now we're ready to continue on the rest of our row with our original color. And so remember, once you've finished using up a particular color in a row, we can actually leave it off to the side, and we can now continue working through the rest of our row. We've just finished round 7 and now we're going to move on to round 8. With round 8, we're going to start off with 9 single crochets of our initial color. So we're going to do 8 normally, and on the 9th one we're going to do our color change. I now have 8 full single crochets of my first color, and I've just started half of my 9th single crochet. And so as you know, now we're going to do our color change. So again, putting our color 1 yarn out the front, we're going to grab our color 2 yarn, and with that yarn, holding it as we normally do at the top here. Now I'm just going to finish off the rest of that single crochet. So wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through. So in all together we should have 9 single crochets of the initial color. And now we're going to, because we're not done with this pink yarn for the remainder of the row, we are going to carry it across. So remember, we do want to put it across our row, and that's when we can continue single crocheting across. So we can double check which stitch we're interested in, which is this one here, this pink, last pink one here. And so insert our hook into that stitch. It's a little bit hard to see, to be honest, because there's a lot going on there. But yeah, just double check that you have the right one. Pull through, wrap your yarn around, and pull through 2 loops. Okay, so there's 1. We're going to do 7 of these new color stitches. 5, 6, and with our 7th one, our last one of that color, we are going to do our color change. So we want to go halfway like this. Before we finish off, we are going to do a color change. Bring our second color yarn out to the front, hold with your thumb, and grab your first color yarn, and we are going to finish off the rest of the stitch by wrapping your yarn around the hook and then pulling through the 2 loops. And now we can complete the rest of the row as we normally would. I just finished round 8. We're going to flip our work again. You can see more of that heart showing up. We're going to do 8 pink stitches, so 7 normal ones, and then the 8th one is our color change stitch. So I just finished my 7 stitches across, full stitches, and then I started my 8th one, so that's halfway done. I'm going to bring my color 1 yarn to the front, bring my second color yarn up the top, and I'm going to finish off the stitch by pulling through. And again with this, we're going to bring it out to the other side on the top of our row as we start the colored portion, the second colored portion. And so this time we're going to do 9 single crochets of the second color, so 8 normal ones, and then the 9th one will be our color change stitch. I have just done half of my 9th single crochet, and it's time to do our color change. So I'm going to bring this yarn to the front, back to our original color, and we're going to finish off this final stitch by wrapping around, pulling through, and we can leave this second color out here as we continue the rest of the row. So I've just finished with my round 9, and we're going to start round 10. So rows 10, 11, 12, and 13 are all the same. So I'll show you how to do row 10, and we're just going to repeat the exact same thing for 11, 12, and 13 as well. So let's get into round 10. So for round 10, we need 7 stitches along here that are of color 1. So 6 full ones, and then our 7th stitch is going to be our color change. So I've made my 6 full single crochets, and then I started my 7th one, and we are going to do our color change. So once we've done our color change, we can bring our color 1 yarn over the top of the row as we do, and we are going to make 11 of these color 2 stitches across. So 10 full ones, and our 11th one will be our color change. Okay, onto my 11th stitch. I've done half of it, and we're going to do our color change back to our original color. And so you can bring our color 2 out to the front. Our original color we're going to use to wrap around the hook and pull through to complete that stitch. And we are just going to continue on with the rest of the row as we normally would. So that was the end of our row 10. And as I said before, the next 3 rows, 11, 12, and 13 are exactly the same. So I'll meet you at the end of row 13 after that's been completed. So I just finished my row 13. So 10, 11, 12, 13 were all the same. And we're now going to move on to row 14, which is now different. So we're going to flip our work again. And we want to start off with 8 single crochets of this color. So 7 full ones and then 1 color change stitch. Okay, so I'm ready to make my color stitch now. So I'm going to pop my color 1 yarn at the front, bring my color 2 yarn at the top, wrap around and pull through. So with this new color, we want to do 4 stitches across now, and with that 4th stitch being a color change stitch again. So with our color 1, we're going to put it across the row like this again, and we're just going to do 4 stitches across. And with our 4th one, we just want to do halfway. Bring that yarn across the front, and we're just going to use this yarn here to finish off that 4th stitch. So now with the color 1 yarn, we just want to do 1 stitch. So that will actually be our color change stitch itself. So what that will look like is with our color 2 yarn, make sure we drape it across before we start. And so we're going to insert our hook into the next stitch, wrap our yarn around, pull through, and we have 2 loops here. And don't finish off the stitch at the moment. We are going to do our color change straight away, and with our new color we're going to wrap our yarn around the hook and pull through 2 loops. So technically there is 1 color 1 stitch sitting there, and then from now we are going to bring that color 1 across the rows again, and with color 2 we are going to make 4 stitches. And on our 4th stitch we are just going to go halfway because it is our color change stitch. Bring our color 2 yarn out to the front, color 1 goes back out to the top, finish off that 4th stitch, and we are going to fill in the rest of the row with single crochets of color 1. I've just completed row 14 and we're going to start row 15 now. So to start off we're going to do 9 single crochets, 8 full single crochets and 1 last one for the color change. I'm going to start my 9th stitch. Even though we aren't quite doing the color change right now, I'm still going to pick up this color 2 yarn at the start, just because where the yarn is anchored is a little bit further down. So I'm going to make sure it's included in this stitch at the very start. And so we are going to yarn over, pull through, and this is where we want to do our color change. So bring color 1 out to the front, color 2 goes to the top, and wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through. We want to slide our color 1 yarn across, and we are going to do 2 stitches of the color 2 yarn. So one full one, and then the second one will be the color change. So I'm ready for my color change. We're going to bring color 2 yarn down, color 1 yarn goes to the top, and wrap your yarn around and pull through 2 loops. And so from here we are going to do 3 single crochets of color 1. Again, color 2 has to lie across because we're still going to use it for the rest of this row. And we're going to do 3 single crochets and 3. And with our third one, we are going to go back to our color change. So bringing our color 1 yarn out to the front, color 2 yarn comes back up the top, wrap our yarn around the hook and pull through 2 loops. So almost done with color 2. We're just going to do 2 more stitches across, 1 more stitch that's in full, and then the second stitch will be the color change back to our original color. So with color 1, again, it has to lie across, and let's continue. So first stitch, the color 1, and then second stitch, we just do halfway. We're going to do our color change. So color 2 yarn goes to the front, color 1 yarn goes to the top, and we are going to finish off that stitch by wrapping the yarn around the hook and pulling through just like that. So we actually are no longer going to use color 2 for the rest of this design. We'll just leave it here for now, but we're just going to complete the rest of the row with single crochets for color 1. So I finished row 15, and we actually no longer need color 2, as I said earlier. So what we can do is we can grab our scissors and we can snip off our color 2, and you can see our lovely heart that is showing up on our design. Of course, we have a few more rows to go to complete the rest of our work. So for rows 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20, we're just going to fill the rest up with our simple single crochets for color 1. And for row 16, I will demonstrate just because I want to show you how to weave in this tail. So we're going to start off our 16th round as we normally do. And I'm now approaching our yarn tail for our color 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish off that last stitch and sort of treat this as like a yarn tail that we had been doing before, and we're just going to leave it at the top there and just keep crocheting on top of that as if it didn't exist. I just finished my round 16. The next 4 are going to be exactly the same, just single crochet with color 1, no color change or anything. So I'll see you at the end of round 20. So I just finished my 20th round and it's looking very cute. It is looking a little bit rough around the edges, and that's normal, but I do want to give it a bit more structure because I can see it's curling and the edges are a little bit rough as well. So I'm going to turn my work this way, and if you stretch your work a little bit, you can see little holes at the very top. That's where we're going to be inserting our hooks. So we'll start with the first one here. Insert your hook into that first hole, wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through. And again, we're just going to wrap around the hook and pull through the 2 loops. Repeating the same thing for the next hole in line. Insert your hook, wrap your yarn around the hook, pull through, wrap around the hook again and pull through 2 loops. And we're just going to do our third one, fourth one, and we're going to continue this until the end of the row, and we will meet there. So I've reached the end so far, and what I'm going to do is flip my work around, and we can see here, if you look at the top, there are some stitches resembling our V shapes, and so here we are going to just put our hook through each V shape, wrap our yarn around, pull through, wrap around again and pull through 2 loops. And we're just going to continue this throughout the rest of the row as well. I finished my row across and I've reached the tail at the very start of this project, and this is optional, but I'm going to tuck it in with the rest of my work. So I'm just going to leave it at the top of the row and we are going to just work over it. I finished that third side as well. You can see it's already looking a lot more neat and a lot more structured. All we need to do is just repeat until we get to the very start of where we started this round. Once you've finished across this top row, you want to go back to your first stitch, insert your hook, wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through. And you can see there's 2 loops on your hook currently. So with the first loop, you're going to pick it up with your hook and pull that through the second loop as well. And when you have that 1 loop, what we're now going to do is we're going to cut our yarn, and we are just going to simply pull against that loop until that tail goes straight through, like so. And then you can tighten it up to make sure that it is nice and tight. And we have finished 1 panel with a heart on it. You can see it's very cute. So you can leave it as 1 panel, just sort of like as a patch or like a piece of artwork. But what I would like to do is I'd like to create a similar patch and join it at the back so that it becomes a pouch. So I'll return after I've completed my other panel. So similar to my other panel, I've just created my second panel with 2 different colors, and we're just going to work on joining them up together. So to join them up together, we want to line the 2 panels up. And grabbing one of the corners, I'm just going to stitch marker them together. We're going to do the same for the other corner. And the final corner as well. I've popped the stitch marker on the 3 different corners. On the one that we don't have our stitch marker, that's where we're going to start crocheting. So flip our work. And we're going to use another color for the border. So to start, insert your hook into the very corner stitch for each of the 2 panels so that they're sitting on the hook like so. Grab the color that you want to use for your border. We're just going to hold it firm with our thumb like this. And wrap your yarn around the hook, and then you just want to slowly pull through. Wrap your yarn around the hook again and pull through. So we want to repeat for the next stitch. And I'm weaving in my tail in with the rest of my work so I don't have to deal with it later. So below that tail, you should see the 2 big stitches sitting here. And once you're ready, you can wrap your yarn around the hook again and pull through everything. Wrap your yarn around the hook and pull through 2 loops. We'll do it one more time. So inserting your hook into the next 2 stitches. We're going to wrap around the hook, pull through, wrap your yarn around the hook again and pull through 2 loops. You want to repeat this process all along the borders, these 3 borders here, and you want to leave this one open so that we can use it as a pouch. So I'll meet you at the very end again. Once you've reached the final stitch, to finish off, you can pull through and grab your scissors, snip off your yarn, and then pull against your hook and tighten to finish off your pouch. For this end, it's good to weave it in, so I'll show you how to do that as well. So what I like to do is I like to insert my hook into that V, grab our tail, and use the hook to pull that yarn through. Okay, so once that's done, we can insert our hook into the other side to the next V, pull that yarn through the V, and you just keep repeating that process until your tail gets small enough that it doesn't stick out. There we go. And here is the finished pouch. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful and I hope you had a lot of fun making this wallet. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.